Welcome to now we're live. Haha. Hey everybody, welcome to Teal Tinted Glasses, episode 60 something, 63 apparently. Kevin's gonna join us soon, but for the meantime, you're stuck with me and Mr. Hockey Jerk. Mr. Hockey Jerk, say hello to the people.
Um, Honestly, I don't know how to contain myself because I think what a lot of people are not talking about is how huge it is for the Sharks to be getting a guy like future considerations back.
Yeah,
I've got to watch him quite a bit lately just because, Florida, they are on the East Coast, so their games are on a little bit earlier, and what I've seen from the kid, Jesus, watch out. That's all I'm saying.
yeah. Future considerations. Watch out, number 69 for your Barracuda. Oh man, yeah. I don't know. I don't even know where to start. Because like there's so much going on. I mean, we have to break. I think we have to break down the junior career future considerations, and also probably tell you where we went to middle school to get our Pierre Maguire on.
Well, and I don't know if you know this, but I was talking with Don Cherry, and he is from Toronto,
Mm-hmm.
so automatically good kid.
Good
Um,
Ontario boy.
yeah, dresses well, smart guy, loves the game, never quits on a shift.
Right.
So
Hits people.
yeah, it's a good piece to have. Yep, and
All right.
he sure as hell does not do cartwheels at center ice once the game is over.
Oh, yeah. Can't have that. That's insanity. All right. So Michael Haley has made his return to Teal. Obviously, this has gotten, I'd say, mostly negative reaction from the fan base. Melker Carlson's breathing a little bit easier these days, I hear.
He is now no longer the worst player on the team.
Right. So now, yeah, Michael Haley takes some pressure off Melker Carlson. I hear even Kevin LeBanc is like breathing a little easier now too. Um, I don't know. Like to me, this move makes zero sense. Because like when Haley was here before, like I could, I didn't agree with it, but you could understand it. But this is a team that didn't have Timo Meyer and Evander Kane, and you know what I mean. Like this team really didn't need more sandpaper. So this waiver claim just makes so little sense to me.
Well, and to your point, to your point, that was also a time where you don't have Timo Meyer, you don't have Evander Kane, as you said, but you also don't have guys like Barclay Goodrow or Brendan Dillon who are willing to step up as much as they are now. So yeah, obviously Haley for the time made sense, and the Sharks also had a lot of kids who were just not ready. But now you're looking at this roster as the guys that you mentioned who can handle themselves physically and you know, I agreed with Kevin Lacey on this. I don't hate it, but I don't understand it either, especially considering that, but also considering how, and again, rumors, smoke, and mirrors, and
Mm-hmm.
he said, she said, but the Sharks are allegedly in on Wayne Simmons, who is kind of that, tough to play against guy who's also going to score some goals. So it's like makes you kind of think, okay, you're bringing in Haley, you probably got your toughness covered. I don't think a guy like Wayne Simmons would be in the cards for the Sharks anymore. And I mean, the way that I see it is, if you are going to go for a guy who's tough, why not also pick up somebody who can score a few goals, right?
Right, and that would be my thoughts too. And speaking of Mr. Kevin Lacey, he now joins us live on the podcast.
live on Teal Tinted Glasses. Hello, everybody. Jumping in on the Michael Haley talk here. Michael Haley's a serviceable guy. That's all he needs to be. He doesn't need to be anything more. And I think that this is a situation where Doug Wilson probably wants to keep the kids on the farm, and Peter DeBoer doesn't play the kids anyway. I mean, how many times have we complained about why is Dylan Gambrell playing 4.5 minutes a night, or Danny O'Regan from years past? Like he's playing 3 minutes a night.
Yeah.
What's the point of calling those guys up? If DeBoer's going to trust Michael Haley, put the trustable guy in. Honestly, I don't think that in that role on the fourth line, any of the kids in the minors are going to do anything more than what Haley can do. And plus, Haley's a glue guy. I got really tired year after year seeing the Sharks trade their glue guys. And sure, those guys aren't guys like Rob Davison, not playing in the playoffs. But if they keep the locker room light during the playoffs, that's really important too. So I think Haley just meshes well really with the locker room.
Well, and that's a good point that you bring up, Kevin, because, obviously you you play hockey on an organized team. I used to play hockey on an organized team, and I'll be honest with everybody here. I outside of skating, I sucked, right? But you know what? I always tried to keep the mood light, with my teammates, just BSing and having a good time and doing that. And you can tell it's one of those things where everybody's having a good time, everybody's laughing and enjoying themselves, and it makes playing the game and playing with each other that much more fun.
Yeah, I like when Brody put out the initial tweet that he just, where he was just speculating, and I guess kudos to him for getting it right. But, Paul, before that became official, Paul Gackle, friend of the show, he tweeted out, a couple of reasons, like Haley didn't see any ice time during the 2017 playoff run. It seems weird that you would bring him in a cup or bust year. And then also, like I said, you didn't have the Evander Kanes, the Timo Meyers, you had the Brandon Dillon, but that's about it.
To me, I don't see what the big deal is. If he's not going to play, he's not going to play, but we got him for free. Yeah. Like, it's not costing the Sharks anything. So
I do like that point. I think that's a point too that a lot of people tend to not consider, is like, it's a free asset and you can do what you will with that free asset. For all we know, say the Sharks swing for a big fish, it's not out of the realm of possibility that he's thrown back on waivers if they have to.
I was going to even go on top of that and say, to your point, Haley's a proven AHL player, like a quality AHL player. That's his peak. We know that. That's his peak. But if the Sharks end up with 14 forwards on the NHL roster and Haley goes down to the minors, I have no problem putting him in the top 6 on the Barracuda.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's going to be interesting, right? Because I think the Sharks are obviously one of the teams that always seems to be getting linked to Wayne Simmons, and obviously if you bring in Wayne Simmons, then what do you send Haley down if he doesn't clear waivers? Then who cares, right? Because you didn't spend any assets to get him. I don't know. I think it's like I can see it as kind of like a kind of a fallback plan, because obviously, to Dirk's point, DeBoer, for better or worse, just doesn't want to play the kids.
Yeah. Steve Cropper in the chat says DW is no dummy. He has a plan. And exactly. You go out, you target players or whatnot. I think what you just said, Ian, is that this might be a fallback plan. I don't see the Sharks making the big splash that people think they're going to do. I know they're in on Simmons and whatnot, but I just don't see anything happening. I don't see the assets there that other teams can offer for these types of players, unless the Sharks are going to trade Chmelevski or Merkley or Mario Ferraro. I just don't see it happening. Now, granted, how many times have we said, "Oh, there's no way Doug Wilson trades this prospect," and then there's no way the Sharks trade Charlie Coyle.
Yeah, no, that's never gonna happen. I think another thing too, just from the 31 Thoughts podcast, that they said, like Doug Wilson really likes to kind of, sneak in there at the end. Like I think for Doug Wilson, like he's gonna wait until like the dying hours of the trade deadline, dying minutes of the trade deadline, and be like, okay, are you gonna hold this guy, or are you gonna give him up for this, this paltry return just to get something? So I think, and I really feel like that's gonna be Doug Wilson's strategy, because he doesn't have the assets to play with. So he's gonna wait out the market, and he's gonna see if there's anyone he likes out there, and he's gonna try and get him on the cheap at the last minute while the GM's under the gun to move him.
Yeah.
Well, and to your point, especially with a guy like Wayne Simmons, who is obviously a good player, but has struggled with injuries the last year and a half. I would not be surprised to see a handful of teams who may want to consider his services be hesitant just because of that injury history. And to your point, that allows Doug Wilson to kind of just wait in the bushes until the right time and then jump out and scoop him up for next to nothing.
Yeah. So I realize I'm probably jumping ahead here, but on Steve Cropper talking about Doug Wilson has a plan, I think that's why we saw Vincent Praplin get traded today. Now, the Sharks are not in danger right now of hitting 50 contracts, but nevertheless, moving Vincent Praplin, and we can circle back into why later, but moving Vincent Praplin opens up a roster spot, an organizational roster spot, I'm saying, to bring in. I mean, I don't think Doug Wilson gets 5 guys at the deadline, but he's keeping his options open. So there's something there. He's obviously, to me, moving Praplin says Doug Wilson feels he's in on a few guys.
And you know what the thing with Doug Wilson too is that he's never been afraid to take on someone's AHL garbage for the remainder of the season. Like, he's done that time and time again. That's where it's true. Like, I will take your AHL garbage, free up a few contract spots for you, and then they're gone in the summer. And we've seen that, a few times. I don't think that's going to happen this time with Francis Perron. I think Francis Perron's probably coming back, but we did see this with Buddy Robinson. We've seen, we saw it.
Best AHL trash ever, Buddy Robinson. Let's get that right.
Right, but I'm just saying, like, that is how they've acquired some players in the past, right? Just
Definitely.
They've acquired them at the deadline, and then they've just kind of let them go after playing out the year on the Barracuda. So, freeing up that roster spot, he might be able to help a team that's close to the organizational cap of contracts and, help them get out from under it. And moving Praplin obviously gives them the ability to do so.
Yeah.
And then I think the question is with Praplin, and I guess we'll just wrap up on
You want to just get out with it? Yeah.
Yeah. I think, everyone asks what future considerations are. So basically in the NHL, you cannot get something for free. You can't just give away a player. So the loophole around that is future considerations. Future considerations, there's no, like, everyone's like, oh, do they keep, does the NHL keep tabs and say, okay, that's the future considerations? No, they don't. Basically, it's a wink, wink, IOU. It could be something down the road. It could be nothing. They might, take a contract off our hands down the road. They might, instead of giving us instead of demanding a second for a player, they take a third. It could be anything.
Yeah, and typically it's a guy like, we have Alex Shaneborn on our team, so we're obviously not acquiring him, but it'd be like taking on a guy like Alex Shaneborn and immediately dumping into unrestricted free agency. That's typically what happens. I think it's also kind of a, hey, we thank you, Florida, for putting Michael Haley on waivers. Because I actually think Doug Wilson probably just said, hey, can you just put this guy on waivers, please? Or something, Well, maybe Peter DeBoer asked Bob Bugner for a favor or something, And this is, the future considerations is actually past considerations. I don't know.
Well, and future considerations, to your point, Ian, is such an open-ended kind of thing that it can literally be anything. It could be a situation where, say, the Sharks are trading for a guy, and Florida's like, well, we want a third. And San Jose's like, okay, but future considerations, how about we give you a fourth? But in that same token, it could be, hey, Mr. Dale Talon, do you got $1 for the vending machine? Like, it could literally be one or the other.
Yeah.
Right? Like, there's no specific, set thing that future considerations have to be. It's basically just, I didn't get him for free. I have future considerations.
Hey, isn't it kind of fun? First off, I just want to crack a joke. It could be anything. It could even be a boat. You know how much we wanted one of those? Right. But anyway, isn't it funny that Doug Wilson and Dale Talon have this relationship now with, moving Mike Hoffman and Michael Haley and Vincent Praplin and all that? Wasn't Dale Talon the GM of Chicago when we decided we're going to contract you to death with Chalmerson so we can get Antti Niemi from you?
I would have to look at the internet, but I believe you might be right.
I think you'd be right, but I think that by that point, he was already in the fire because everyone knew that Stan Bowman was going to take over that team. It was just a matter of when.
Mhm.
But no, it's funny. Florida's apparently the new Minnesota.
Well,
Could be.
I was gonna say Dale Talon is one of the few NHL GMs who doesn't see Doug Wilson on their caller ID and send it to voicemail.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Oh my God.
I want to circle back to that point. I'm going to put a completely different spin, but let's move on to other topics, such as
How about where there's smoke, there is smoke. The Sharks were apparently going to pick up Ryan Miller like immediately. It was going to happen, and then it didn't. And I thought some of the reactions to this were really interesting. There's some people that were kind of for it, and then there was some real. Are you guys completely separate topic? Are you guys kind of sick of how homerish all the NHL coverage is now?
What do you mean?
I just feel like I don't know. I just feel like it's so everything is so like. I feel like the coverage on TV should be called Teal Tinted Glasses and not our podcast. Because
That's a good point.
I feel like it's just, and I'm not saying like obviously you want to pander to your own fan base, but I was really kind of surprised at some of like, and you know I gave Brody Brazil kudos, and I like Brody Brazil. Look, Brody Brazil's a cool guy, but I was really surprised with his just adamant defense of, what do you mean the Sharks need a goalie? What are you talking about? Like, why would they ever do this? And it's like, do you not remember James Reimer? And I don't know. And I think it's just a case where it's like, I don't know.
Dude, James Reimer was awesome. Do you not remember James Reimer? That's what I say to that.
Right. Well, that's my point, right? Like, I don't know. I just feel like sometimes I wonder if like because of how like tinted, like team color tinted the media tends to be now, like the sports media, especially local sports media, tends to be now. Like you look at the guys who were critical, and I'm not saying like a lot of people that are critical of the teams are finding themselves out of jobs. Look at Ray Ratto, perfect example. Like I didn't always agree with what Ray Ratto said, but he wasn't afraid to come out and say when something was crap. Drew Remenda. And I just feel like we've gone into this direction. Like there's always been, like, don't get me wrong, like the Jack Edwards of the world have always been there, but I feel like that is the way it is for every team now, and it kind of frustrates me.
That's what ownership wants.
I know, I get that. It bothers me.
Ownership meddling in everything.
Yeah, it bothers me. I think it hurts the experience for fans. I think it just and it also gives like. I feel like it gives like the crazy dumb fan like backup to be dumb. I wish I could put that more eloquently, but like I feel like you don't have to critically think. You can just be like oh well that should have been a penalty, and or oh we're not getting any calls. It's just like I don't know. I feel like even when that's not the case, like. You give ammunition to that, who it's always like, oh my God, they touched our player, that should have been a penalty.
Well, and two, you notice in the past every time that Jones has struggled, Dell has been there to bail him out. But we've seen this year that even Dell has struggled. Now, yes, Martin Jones has struggled, but I am of the belief that he will work those kinks out. But, Aaron Dell has struggled, and we kind of saw it too when the Sharks traded for James Reimer. You're trading away a backup who's probably better than his stats indicate, but is also struggling with some things for a 1B type of guy. And again, similar to, with Michael Haley, like I wouldn't hate it, but I don't necessarily, I'm not totally on board with it either. I would say I'm 50-50-ish.
Well, who should the Sharks get as a backup, or should they keep Aaron Dell? I mean, if not Ryan Miller, who I don't
see. Here's why I like the Ryan Miller rumor, because you have Dell on the payroll for next year at almost $2 million. which is like $1 million too many with the way he's played this year. Maybe not the way he's played overall, but the way he's played this year. And you're heading into a cap crunch because obviously Erik Karlsson, Joe Pavelski, whatever they plan on doing, who they're bringing back, who they're extending, like cap space is going to be at a premium for this team. So if you can get out from under that last year of Arundel's contract, and then just you could either bring up Bibo or Kornash to back up next season. I would lean Bibo in that direction, let Kornash just start as many games as he can in the AHL at a cheaper rate. I think it would be a smart move, right? If you can get under, if the Ducks would take Arundel, and give you Ryan Miller for a playoff run, then do it. I mean, Jones is probably going to start anyway. But I mean, like, Dell just hasn't been that great this year. And I like Arundel. Don't get me wrong. Like, and I think this is the problem, right? Is everyone's so cozy now. And I kind of wonder if, like when Brody was going off about this, I'm like, well, is this because you like Arundel the person or you like Arundel the goalie? And I feel like that is part of the problem now. Is like, I don't know. Does that make sense?
We've seen this from Brody before, though. I can't remember who it was, but I remember he was so adamant about one trade that he disliked, and it was all because he was buddies with the guy. So, but hey, people are allowed to be people too. Like you're allowed to be fans and friends and whatnot.
Absolutely. So, no, and I'm not like I said, I'm not trying to pick on Brody. I was just kind of just surprised like that he was like one of the more vocal people, and it's like, well, look at the numbers, like. Like Arundel, just look at neither goalie's been good this year.
Yeah. It's it's so funny to me because I do feel like there's a ton of goalies available, but yet at the same time, I'm like, who would I bring in? I mean, the logic seems to be Philly would be moving a goalie. I don't want any of those guys unless it's Carter Hart, and that's obviously not happening. So.
No, the training camp is Carter Hart and 5 other guys.
Well, the way I look at this is like, you can just do Dell for Miller, and work around that. But
where's the incentive for the Ducks, though?
That's what I'm saying is why I almost wonder if. Oh, sorry, I just drank some soda. You say you trade for Miller and you give up a draft pick, whatever. And then you turn around and you go to one of these teams. Now, let's remember, too, every team values guys differently. The Sharks fans may look at Arundel and say, oh, he sucks. He can't do this. He can't do that. But a team, maybe an East Coast team who needs a goalie may look at him and say, hey, well, this guy has a good body of work prior to this season. Let's give him a chance and see if he can be our starter.
Yeah,
and I almost wonder if the Sharks can, if they can finagle it a certain way, they might be able to recoup what they would theoretically give up for Miller by trading Arundel.
Yeah,
here's the concern that I have is if the Ryan Miller trade, for example, or any goalie was to be traded, it ends up being like Arundel and Joachim Blichfeld for aging UFA goalie. Like, because those are the types of trades that has haunted Doug Wilson in the past. Cough, cough, Nick Bonino or Kent Huskins and 14 games of Travis Moan.
Yep. There is that. I mean, that's always the risk, right? And the only reason I said, I was more looking at it from a cap perspective for me because Jones is net in the playoffs. That's the way it is. So if you can, like I said, for me, it was more like if you can somehow get out from under that contract, and then Ryan Miller comes off the books at the end of the year, I think, is Ryan Miller going to give you better goaltending than Arundel at this point in his career? Maybe. He
had a .928 save percentage last year for Anaheim.
Yeah, I mean, you need him for a couple of games. Like, I just feel like I'm just worried that A, Jones isn't going to get his crap together, or B, they're not going to play Dell enough games down the stretch, and it's not going to matter.
Yeah.
Like, and that's I mean, really, goaltending to me is the big threat to really undo, that is going to be their undoing in the playoffs, in my opinion. Like, if something goes wrong in the playoffs, it's going to be goaltending, because the Sharks can't score, 5 goals a game in the playoffs. It's just not realistic.
I still think the defense has to be better.
The defense has to be better too, but I mean, even with the chances that they've given up, Dell and Jones have been still way below average on stopping those pucks.
You say the Sharks can't score 5 goals a game in the playoffs, and Evander Kane says, "Watch me."
Evander Kane can go ahead. They can't play the Ducks every game in the playoffs.
You're right. But I like how you brought up the salary cap too. Dell's contract, when you just look at it by itself, it's a very good contract for what Aaron Dell offers. But as a cap team who's trying to say, hey, why don't you all just come back? Erik Karlsson, Joe Pavelski, Joe Thornton, maybe. All these guys, you're going to need every penny that you can get.
Because my biggest fear is with the season that he's had is Joe Pavelski is going to get massively overpaid to stay.
And the 13-year-old boy in me who decided he was my favorite player will be fine with that.
Me too.
But the podcaster who sits before you, who's got a rational brain, shares the same fear.
Yeah, it really concerns me. Like, I like Joe Pavelski, but he's 34, so maybe it's not the money that would concern me, it's the term. Like, the term is going to be huge. Like, if the term's long, then I don't know, just Chicago without the Cups, man. Chicago without the Cups.
Do you think that Joe Pavelski's relationship with Joe Thornton, you couple that with maybe how long Pavelski's been in the fold and how important he is to the team, do you think that he's maybe a guy who would take some team-friendly deals to keep the good times rolling, or do you still think he's trying to ring the bell?
He's got one more chance to ring the bell, is the way I see it.
Mm-hmm.
Because if he's going long term, he has one chance left to ring the bell. In my opinion.
And that's the thing that I cannot believe we don't see more in pro sports, is players not taking a couple $1 million off to help improve their team in other areas. The last time I can remember that was Marian Hossa and Daniel Alfredson taking less in Ottawa to build themselves a team that went to the Stanley Cup Finals. But other than that, I heard, okay, now I'm going to get my Minnesota-Florida thing in just because I'm thinking about it.
Okay.
So Minnesota right now is screwed, and they've been screwed for a while because they're handcuffed by these Zach Parise and Ryan Suter signings from years and years ago that are only halfway through the contracts. At the time, those are players that they needed, but they saddled so much money in these two players that their team has had no forward progress pretty much throughout the last 15 years. And if you saw last week's episode, you know exactly what we're talking about, because it was the same story last week. And what's going to happen here with Florida? Because a lot of rumors are maybe Florida gets Artemi Panarin at the trade deadline and then signs Sergei Bobrovsky in the offseason. And then obviously re-signs Artemi Panarin in the same light. That's going to cost so much money. That is Florida really going to progress any by signing these two guys? I feel like players like these guys who deserve a lot of money, but maybe it's time to think, if I only take $8 million instead of $10 million between the two guys, that's $4 extra million per year I can give to another quality player.
Yeah,
you want to win, right?
Yeah, no, I agree. And you look at, Bobrovsky, I feel like the number for Bobrovsky, you want to talk about goalie that's had a tough season. Bobrovsky hasn't exactly had a great season in Columbus this year, considering contract year.
No, but he's still going to get his money.
And there's some dumb team out there that will pay him.
That's the thing that really bothers me. Now, I personally have never been a fan of Sergei Bobrovsky, and those who tell me he has 2 Vezina trophies, well, I turn around and say, well, you got a half season and you got a, team scoring hella goals per game. Now,
Sounds like you had an
playoff
unfortunate
series wins?
encounter with Officer Bobrovsky.
How many playoff series wins does?
exactly. How many gold medals does Bobrovsky have? Yeah, I've just never been a fan, and I was, in some of my circles, we were just talking, and one of my buddies was telling me, oh, I was hearing this that Bobrovsky wants the Carey Price deal, and I'm like, are you expletive kidding me? Like, no way. And to your point, Ian, I think somebody is dumb enough to give him that deal, but
someone will.
To go back what you said, Kevin, the last instance where I can think of a guy taking a discount to keep the good terms. No, what comes to mind for me is Steve Stamkos. You have a hard time telling me that he couldn't have asked for 10.
Oh, he could have asked for more.
Oh,
he's at an $8.5 million AAV, and he's probably going to hit 100 points. I'm all for it. As the kids say, I am for it.
I'm absolutely. Yeah. Vince G makes a very important point, though. I don't think Florida can pull that off now that future considerations is already gone. I love this podcast. Oh my god.
You're right. And congratulations to Nikita Kucherov for hitting 100 points tonight. The earliest in 22 years. Talking about 100 points with Stamkos, and now Kucherov is. They're not on the same line though. Still, right? They're still.
I believe they play together on the power play, but other than that, I think they are split up. And that's another guy too. I mean, granted, his extension has not kicked in yet, but you've got Kucherov, who looks like a lock to score 100 points a year, and he's only making $9.5 million, while you got guys like Matthews, Tavares, McDavid, who are just as good as him, which, I mean, that's fine. They got their money, and that's well-deserved, but you got Nikita Kucherov, who's doing the same thing as these guys and making $3 million less.
But that's why Tampa's the best team in the league versus these other teams that are struggling with consistency.
It allows you to hand out 5 different contracts that have an AAV of $5 million.
Yeah.
And the state tax, I understand the merit of the argument, but I'm of the belief that it's not considered as much as people say it is. Like, if you're a prime ticket UFA, are you going to go to a crappy team who's got low state tax? Probably not. Yeah. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. But back to Ian, what Ian was saying, though, like on Pavelski, Pavelski's probably going to get overpaid, but hey, use that money elsewhere. If you need a third line player here in the offseason, if the Sharks don't win and they strike out in the trade market, like I think they will, use some of that money and bring in a third line player and keep Pavelski. Like, come on, captain, be a leader. But that's for another. That's for July, though.
That's a July podcast. All right, so we talked about the big trade of the day already. So let's talk about. You want to talk about what order do you want to do this in? Do you want to just kind of go in the order of how they came, or do you want to just get to the big one and then work our way down?
Big one and then work down, because I have a lot to say about Duchesne.
Yeah.
All right, so the other mediocre size trade of the day after the Vincent Praplin one, of course, was the Columbus Blue Jackets getting Matt Duchesne and Julius Bergman, former Sharks prospect, from the Senators in exchange for Vitaly Abramov, Jonathan Davidson with 2 S's, a 2019 first round pick, and a conditional 2020 first round pick, which is lottery protected. I think the first round pick's lottery protected, which I'm sure is just killing Pierre Carmen. And the 2020, I believe, it's basically if he resigns in Columbus. The 2020
conditional on that. I like the trade a lot. A lot of people are saying that Columbus gave up a lot for a maybe, but Kevin and I have had this conversation many times before, in person, over text. We write letters. We had
an awesome conversation during lunch today that I wish we'd just recorded and played for you.
But I think there's a legitimate chance that Matt Duchene resigns in Columbus, and from what I've heard, as good as he's been this season, it doesn't sound like he's trying to ring the bell too hard in compared to some of these other guys, which obviously is good for Columbus. But you're in a position where you have to go for it this year because your star player and your star goalie are both probably going to leave.
Mm-hmm.
I don't hate this trade for Columbus, and they don't give up anything from their roster, their NHL roster, that is, and the futures they gave up. Again, I'm not going to pretend like I know everything, but to me, those futures aren't for sure things.
Right. No, absolutely.
Yeah, they're not. Abramov's a nice young player, smallish player, really nice, but he's still a boom and bust player. He kind of reminds me a little bit of Rudolph Balcers in a light, a little smaller than Balcers, but which is funny because I guess they'll be line mates now. But go ahead, Ian.
I said I like Abramovich, though.
Yeah, but to me, Columbus. For me, it was always Columbus for Duchene. I know Nashville. Apparently, even up until last night, Nashville was the favorite, and I thought it was a possibility. I know Hockey Jerk, you really thought it would be Nashville.
It was Nashville for me, and I still think if he doesn't re-sign in Columbus, that's where he ends up.
There you go. I feel like part of the reason that Matt Duchene was benched, not just the whole okay, I'm getting texted here. I'm getting distracted. The whole we don't want our asset to get hurt kind of thing. I think that Columbus and Ottawa had a handshake deal as early as last week on this. And I think that they've been negotiating because why if you're a GM of Columbus, Nashville, or any other team that was trying to get Matt Duchene, why would you not say, hey, can we start negotiating with this agent now and find out whether this is worth our while? And at the same time, Ottawa can sweeten the pot by saying, sure, you can. But if you do end up wanting to do this trade, bump that second rounder up to a first or, whatever. So I really think that Columbus already has an idea of, we're going to re-sign this player, or they at least think they are. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, this opens so many more doors for Columbus here the next 2 days because there's been all the uncertainty about Artemi Panarin. Now they don't have to trade him.
Nope.
They don't. They can make a strong run for the cup. They still got to get in a playoff spot though, but they can make a strong run for the cup as long as Bobrovsky gets back into form. Or they could say, we're going to keep Duchene, trade Artemi Panarin, and basically recoup all the assets, if not more, than what they just gave up for Duchene, because Panarin's a better player than Matt Duchene. So to me, I think it's a win-win for Columbus.
I like the move for Columbus too. I think it, if they can keep him, because Columbus, I feel like yes, losing Panarin's going to be a blow, and losing Bobrovsky, it'll be a blow, but I don't think it's going to be as significant because I still feel like I do like Korpisalo, and I think that there's going to be goalies to be had this summer. If you're not content with Korpisalo, then you can get a goalie this summer. They're going to be out there.
Yep. Florida has 7. I mean, Philly has 7 that they'd like to move.
I'm sure that Philly can lend you a goalie that's not Carter Hart. But I look at Columbus. I mean, they're definitely in a fight for the playoffs right now. They're currently sitting in third, but that's 1 point out of being missing a wild card spot. So, it's obviously Pittsburgh's going to be hot on their tail. So it's going to be interesting to see how that works out. And and Carolina's right there too. I don't know if Carolina has the horses to get over the hump because I think that they're going to be in a dogfight with some tough teams. I mean, that's going to be the East wild card is going to be, I think a good team is going to miss the playoffs in the East.
Yeah, you're pretty much, if you're Carolina, you're essentially competing. It's you, Montreal, Pittsburgh, and Columbus. Mm-hmm. Those 4 guys competing for the last 2 spots. And as fun of a story as Carolina has been, and we've already, invoked one of the 5 for the Drew Weber pentagram, so we'll be careful.
Right.
But I like you said, Ian, I don't think Carolina's got the horses to separate themselves from the pack. Now, that said, they've got like 8 NHL defensemen. Who's saying one of those guys can't be some currency to use?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of rumors, like obviously being in the hockey mecca market that I am. Obviously, you always hear about Toronto looking at one of their defensemen. Brett Pesce seems to be the guy that they continue to look at. So whether they pull the trigger on that, even though they just picked up Jake Muzzin, I don't know. But, it's out there, and I wouldn't be shocked to see a guy like Pesce get you a decent return.
I think Pesce's a really nice piece for Carolina. If I'm Carolina, I keep him. But...
So do I. But if you're, it's funny because, like, you look at some of these teams, and, we were talking about Florida earlier, getting Bobrovsky and Panarin. Like, it's weird, though, because, like, Florida should be a better team, I feel like. Like, other than goaltending injuries, I mean, they've got pieces that are there. Like, and I think they don't get enough attention because they're in Florida and, there's no one in the arena to report on it, but they've got some really nice pieces in Florida, and you would think that would translate, but it hasn't.
Yeah, I agree there. Just on the sheer fact alone that they have done a good job at luring guys in the last few years.
Yeah,
Florida's thing is management, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how many times have we talked about, I can't believe Florida only got this for that, or Florida gave up Jonathan Marchessault for nothing.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted to get rid of Jonathan Marchessault. Like,
I don't know, and like I feel like it's like, I mean, and I feel like the Hurricanes are kind of in that vein, though. It's like, what do they need to get them just that much over the hump? Because I feel like, Carolina, I look at Carolina's defense core. I love Carolina's defense core. I don't know why you'd want to touch it, but here we are.
Yeah. I just want to real quickly do since you mentioned Brett Pesce, if Toronto's calling about him, Pesce's like, "What do I amuse you?" Sorry, really bad Joe Pesci impersonation, but that's all I could think of here. What do I amuse you?
We didn't really talk about the big key part of the Matt Duchene deal, and that would be Julius Bergman.
Julius Bergman.
Julius Bergman, who, from what I heard, was going to leave Belleville and go back to Sweden. Is that no longer the case?
No, that's totally why he's getting moved. For those of you who have not heard, and this is the same case with Vincent Praplin, a big reason why the Sharks moved him was because Vincent Praplin's already been linked to having a handshake deal with Lugano in Switzerland, and Lugano really likes to dish out the Swiss francs. So I'm pretty sure he's a goner. But for Julius Bergman, it's the same thing. I read that apparently Frölunda has some kind of weird thing where they're going to try and bring back a whole bunch of their players that they lost to the NHL. Because I was checking it out. Frölunda has finished in 3rd place in the Swedish Hockey League the last 2 seasons, and they are currently sitting 3rd. And so I'm guessing it's one of those things that how are we going to fix this problem and win a championship? Well, we lost too many players to North America, so we're going to bring them all back. And apparently Julius Bergman's the answer. Good luck, Frölunda. But
well, and there's your inside scoop on where Erik Karlsson is going next season.
That's why he hasn't re-signed with the Sharks yet, folks. Erik Karlsson's going back to Frölunda.
Damn. All right.
Wow.
Well, okay, really quickly.
Okay.
What do we think about this deal for Ottawa?
I don't even know how anyone's still a Senators fan at this point.
Really?
Like, if
you don't like it for Ottawa?
I like it for Ottawa, but I just think like I like the deal for Ottawa, but are they done? No. Like Chris Tierney was their first line center tonight, guys.
That's number 2. Ian, calm down.
Like, I'm sorry, I like Chris Tierney, but he is not a first line center in the NHL, and there he was
Some
tonight.
would say he's not a second line center.
Yeah, I would make that argument as well. Look, maybe in Ottawa. Look, I feel bad for Sens fans because you look at the names and they're not done. Look at Mark Stone not skating, Dzingel not skating, Cody Ceci, who cares? But those two, all right. Like, if you lose Dzingel, Stone, like, look at the players that Ottawa's given away, and what do they have to show for it over the last year? Erik Karlsson, Matt Duchene,
Derek Brassard,
Kyle
Turris.
Right. Like, I'm just talking this last season.
No,
like,
I know, but even if you go back to that,
but let's
Eastern Conference run,
let's just stay with this season alone. Erik Karlsson, Mike Hoffman. Now you've lost Duchene. If you lose Mark Stone and Dzingel on top of that, like, what do you have left? What are you looking forward to next year? Like, I like the return.
You're looking forward to more Mark Borowiecki interviews with.
You're looking forward to next year being over.
Right. No, exactly. Like, I don't even know, like, how many more seats are they going to pull out of the Canadian Tire Center this summer to make it look full still? This is what I want to know, because look, you can't subtract all that. I understand, like, you're tearing it down, but whew, man, I don't know. I mean, there's nothing in the immediate future that's going to be remotely fun for Ottawa.
Well, and to Vince's point, they're going to get 10 new players this year, 15 next year. But
Yes.
I like it from...
And they're losing Julius Bergman, by the way.
Yes, which is major loss for them. Yes. I like it for... This is another one of those situations, and I think I was telling Kevin this earlier, where the amount of deals where somebody gets just taken for a ride has gone down significantly the last few years, and I think this is another one of those deals where both teams generally did okay for themselves. Now, to your point, Ottawa essentially jumped back into their hole and dug 10 more feet, but you know, they pick up prospects who, again, while I referred to them as not, you know, for sure things, I could be talking out of my ass and they could both prove me wrong. Sure. And obviously the big thing for Ottawa was getting a 2019 first, which they now have one of and could potentially end up with 3.
I didn't even think of it like that. Very true.
You're right. I mean, they're not going to draft where they should draft, but at least they've got a first-round pick that's going to be outside of the lottery. You're right. That's a good point. Here's the I mean, look at it. The problem is for Ottawa, like, for being like, I understand stripping it down to the bolts, but holy hell, with all this team, with all the turmoil around this team, like, if I was a Sens fan, I would not have enough confidence in this management/ownership group to put all that stuff on the right track.
Yeah,
I mean, the funniest joke from today was the reason that they traded Matt Duchene today was so that Melnyk wouldn't have to fly him to Columbus. He'd fly with Columbus, and Columbus would pick up the tab. Like, so I mean, even if you get like some good players, which I mean they're gonna have, right? Like, I mean, they're gonna get some good players eventually at some point.
10 of them this year.
10 of them this year, 15 next year. But if they can't get these, you know, if they can't get, look, Matt Duchene, like you said on the last show, out there signing, you know, autographs and Tim Hortons lines and stuff, like, you couldn't get that guy to stick around. Who, like, at some point you need someone to stick around to stop the bleeding, and so you need you need one of these guys to want to stay there. You need a Mark Stone to want to stay. You need a Dzingel to want to stay. You can't just lose all of them. Like, I don't know. To me, it just feels like you need somebody there to say, yeah, I want to be here. Because right now, it doesn't feel like anyone does.
And that's why I think it's imperative that they re-sign Mark Stone. I don't think Dzingel's coming back. I think Dzingel is absolutely being traded where, I don't know. But
San Jose.
That would be awesome, but I don't know. Besides, now the Sharks have a new number 18 anyway, so damn. But I have to hope that Eugene Melnyk is deciding the reason why we are going to move on from Matt Duchene is because we're keeping Mark Stone, and right now Eugene Melnyk's still not committed to actually throwing money at both those guys, not Eugene Melnick 2019. Allegedly 2021 Eugene Melnick will spend. We'll see. But
Duchesne even said today, like, there wasn't. It was about going to a contender. It wasn't about he said Ottawa gave him a fair offer. He just didn't take it, and that's the problem.
There you go.
You need a guy. You need a guy who wants to stay and be a part of the solution. And right now, it's like rats on a sinking ship.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you. Until you can change that, I don't know how Ottawa is supposed to build themselves back up, especially with everything that's going on with just ownership and everything else. Like I said, if I'm a Sens fan, like, I don't even know. Like I'm not a hockey fan next year.
Go ahead, hockey jerk. Again.
Well, I'm just, and it's something that I've kind of considered because you're right, Ian. You kind of want a guy who's going to tough it out through the tough times. That guy you can put the C on his sweater and who can be the face of your franchise. But I always thought Mark Stone was that guy. Like I always thought that he would just re-sign and just deal with it, right? But now, I mean, and again, Kevin will get a kick. I'm not telling you it's true. I'm just telling you what I heard. All signs are pointing to Mark Stone going to the Winnipeg Jets, which I think would be huge for them, but I wouldn't be surprised if July 1 he comes back and says, all right, Ottawa, let's do this.
You never know.
And I think the danger with trading him to the Jets is the fact that he is from Manitoba. He might decide, you know what, I do like playing in my home province. I am going to stick around here. I wanted to ask you guys, where do you think Mark Stone goes if he does get traded? So actually, let's just go with that because now, in true, you guys need to, maybe that should be my new hashtag. I forgot what I was going to say, Kevin. I forgot what I was going to say.
I mean, for me, I think from what I've been reading, looking around, I mean, Winnipeg makes a lot of sense. I don't think Nashville's going to be happy with missing out on Duchesne. Maybe they go that route. There's a couple of teams that are contenders, and they have room to make a move for a piece like that.
I would say the Boston Bruins as well.
Boston, yeah. I mean, there's another one, especially if you're Boston. I mean, you have to want to load up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, you at some point you need to get through Tampa.
Yeah.
Like that is your roadblock. You need to be able to get through Tampa. If you're gonna play the Leafs again in the first round, and if you beat the Leafs, then you have to get through Tampa.
I heard, speaking of Tampa, I heard a great point on Hockey Central at noon today of even if Columbus gets into the playoffs with Duchesne, with Panarin, with Bobrovsky, with Atkinson, so on and so Dubois, so on and so forth,
friend of the show, Cam Atkinson. Sorry,
friend of the show.
Yeah, friend of the show, Cam Atkinson. That's right. I hope you watched last week's show, guys. But Columbus is probably going to have to face Tampa in round one. And if they get smoked out of round one, will keeping Panarin have been worth it? So that's why I still think Panarin, there's a chance of him being traded in this case.
But you have to get something back, right? You can't.
Oh, definitely.
Like, here's the problem for Columbus, right? Like, you're in it, like,
But that's why I think they signed Duchesne. I mean, plus the fact that ever since Johansson was traded, we've been hearing Columbus is looking for a top line center. You had one. Now, granted, I'd still take Seth Jones over Johansson, but.
Mm-hmm.
My goodness. I don't know. I mean, it's true. I mean, like you're saying, like, they could end up facing Tampa in the first round if they fall into that wild card spot. But if they can stay in that 2-3 seed, then
Well, how is the Atlantic faring with the 2-3 seeds versus the one? Because Columbus right now is sitting in like 9th, I think. So
Columbus.
If the playoffs started today, the trademarks and rules, they play Washington.
I was going to say because Columbus beat Ottawa tonight, and that put them in 8th.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know they won 3-0, but I didn't realize they were that close to a playoff spot. Okay.
Yeah, no, they're sitting in the Metro 3rd seed right now, so they would play Washington.
Oh, okay, so that's definitely attainable, obviously.
Right. I mean, you get through if you win that series against Washington, which is a big ask. Then you're off to the Islanders. I mean, if you get through the Islanders, then hell, what can't you do at that point?
Yeah. Well, Washington got Carl Hagelin yesterday, which is actually, I thought Columbus was going to get Carl Hagelin. So,
yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's interesting. I just want to wrap up on make sure we're just done with the Duchesne thing here.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts on that, just so we can move this on? Because I know we've kind of hammered this one, and for good reason. I mean, it's the biggest trade of the day. Hell, it might be the biggest trade of the deadline if nothing else happens.
What I like about this trade happening today is I really think this will open up the market.
Yeah,
I mean, guys like Panarin, Simmons, Stone, Zingle. I know there's a couple other guys I'm forgetting right now. I still think teams we're not talking about enough are Anaheim and LA, two teams that really should, in theory, be desperate to offload. So I really think those teams here in the next 48 hours are going to make, really stamp their mark on this trade deadline. And there are players, I don't think Getzlaf's the guy that goes, but boy, what if Nashville's like, we missed out on Matt Duchene. Wow, we just got Ryan Getzlaf. What a mind blow that would be. So I think there's some players in play that we don't know of yet, and it's going to be pretty exciting. I think Duchene starts this off.
Well, and to your point, Kevin, you're starting to see more situations where it's not so much of pending UFAs and that pending RFAs. You're starting to see guys who got 1 year left, 2 years left, who are going to kind of give the acquiring team, give them some cost certainty to kind of. It's almost like a 2-year rental. I mean, I look at Tampa from last year and it's like, oh wow, they got Ryan McDonough for 2 playoff runs, and then he's like, no, I'm going to sign a 6-year extension. And I'm like,
exactly.
I'm like, okay, and you're starting to see more of that.
And I think that Panarin, really showed a strong two-way game by puking and crapping at the same time.
Yeah, what was that about?
Because Tortorella said that he was actually sick, and he said that he was puking and crapping himself all at the same time, and it wasn't just a trade precaution. He was actually sick.
Oh, as to why he was scratched?
Right.
Oh, okay. I didn't know where you were going with that.
Yeah, no, that's so it's a good two-way game.
All I say is poor guy.
Yeah, absolutely. Worst case of the trade flu ever. All right, so some other minor stuff here. I mean, Sam Gagner goes to the Oilers for Ryan Spooner. Yay.
Hey, wait. Ryan Spooner, who was traded immediately after I said last week, Ryan Spooner will be the next player traded by the Edmonton Oilers, and it didn't even take 12 hours to happen.
That's true. That's good.
And you have been awarded a foreseen point for that.
Nice. If only I had been a little more vocal about my Duchesne thoughts.
There you go. It's interesting though, and it's kind of funny how you want to talk about Homer Media, like how some of the people in Edmonton are building Keith Gretzky a shrine at this point because he's like, oh look, he's made all these little trades that have undone crap Chiarelli's done. It's like, yeah, but you still don't have Jordan Eberle.
Ugh. There's a lot of things they don't have. You know what? I did watch the Edmonton Oilers. I watched them play the Arizona Coyotes on, oh God, what day was that? I believe that was yesterday, Thursday.
Yeah, I think it was.
And
the comeback win, right?
I want to say it was in the shootout.
Yeah, but I mean, they came back from 3-1.
Yeah. I mean, I liked what I saw from Sam Gagner. I thought he played really well defensively. He played really well at center, which Edmonton has been dying for the last 2.5 years. I don't want to say that it's the trade to hang your hat on, but I think early reports are that Sam Gagner back in Edmonton has been working out.
Yeah, and I think, it goes back to kind of what I was saying about Ottawa, right? You need guys that want to be there. And Sam Gagner, been an Oiler before, he knows the situation, and I think he's perfectly happy to be there. And and when you have that much, toxicity around your organization, I mean, that's the kind of things you need to do, right? You need that guy that wants to be there. And I think as much as I will make fun of Keith Gretzky till the end of time for his his wonderful trading and drafting and other things that he's done, But I mean, in this case, it was actually a good move. I have to give him credit. I don't want to, but I have to.
So, guys, let's round them off. Where do you think everyone's going to go? Where do you think the big names are going to go?
How about here? Throw us some player names, and I'll tell you.
Wayne Simmons,
Nashville.
Whoops, sorry, Wayne Simmons, Ian.
San Jose.
Really?
That's what I want. I don't know.
Now, what do you want? What you think's going to happen?
I think that because of some of the other names out there, Simmons could be a guy that could be had on the cheap at the last minute, and that's where Doug Wilson excels.
Okay. Hockey jerk?
Nashville.
Yeah, and I also think Nashville. Let's see. Let's say Artemi Panarin. Does he stay or go?
Stays.
I think he stays. I think, yeah, trading for Duchesne means they're throwing all the eggs into the Stanley Cup basket.
Yep.
Okay. I think he stays as well, but I don't know, man. It's interesting where that's going to go. Ryan Zingle. Ian.
God, that's a good one. Boston.
Hockey jerk.
Boston.
And there you go. Unanimous. Boston.
You heard it here first. A triple 4C.
God, are there any triple 4C? That'd be sick. Are there any defensemen really out there?
Well,
Dougie
Nicholas.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Nick Lidstrom.
Well, Nicholas Jensen was out there, and then Red Wings cashed in on him.
Yep.
Yeah, they did.
Second in Madison Bowie and I mean,
I'm not Madison Bowie.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard good things about him, which I think makes it a good trade for Detroit. I just look at Detroit. They take a virtual unknown and give him 20 minutes a night and turn him into a second-round pick and a prospect. And you look at it from the Washington perspective, they get him extended to a 4-year deal with a $2.5 million annual average value.
Yep.
If he plays the way he's played this season in those 4 seasons, I'm calling it right now, bargain contract in the whole league for a
definitely. And Nick, sorry, Ian, go ahead.
I was gonna say your defenseman that I'm kind of seeing. I guess you could Adam McQuaid. I guess would be a guy that might get some.
Okay,
some
hold off on Adam McQuaid for that. Nick Jensen. The other thing to me is what you're saying, hockey jerk. If he pans out, he ends up re-signing, whatnot, or whatever. There's no roster spot for Madison Bowie right there, so it's easily expendable. And plus, I remember at training camp hearing Washington was very disappointed with Madison Bowie during training camp. So I'm not surprised that he ends up getting moved. Adam McQuaid, Ian, you brought it up. Where do you think he goes?
Gosh, I don't even know. This is another guy, Adam McQuaid. Is he a righty or a lefty? That's what
he's right. Oh shoot, I think he's a righty.
Yeah, so there's a guy, 2.75. There's a guy that, again, if Toronto's looking at a defenseman, maybe that's where they look. If they don't go for a Pesce or a Pesce isn't available, that might be a place they look.
Hockey jerk.
I also think Toronto Leafs, right shot defenseman, more physical aspect, and I believe right now with Jake Muzzin coming in, the Leafs are carrying 7 defensemen, but from what I'm understanding, they're not totally down with Ozhiganov. So,
yeah, Toronto is where I was going as well. So there's another triple prediction. Matt Zuccarello, Ian.
Matt Zuccarello. Man, there's so I feel like there's a lot of buyers, but not. There's so many it's fun. It's fun because it's one of those things where it's like Matt Zuccarello's a guy I could see Nashville looking at, but I could also see, I could see would Vegas look at Zuccarello?
Yes, that's where I'm going. Hockey jerk.
Dallas Stars, because you look at Dallas, it's pretty much a top line team. And they're number 1 wild card right now, so they're in the hunt. But I'm thinking from Dallas Stars' perspective, it's been too many years of not being good enough. And so at a certain point, you're going to have to separate yourself from the other teams competing in the wild card spot.
Yeah. Love that point. And to your point, I'll just jump ahead. That's where I think Mark Stone's going for those reasons. I think he's going to Dallas. I've got Matt Zuccarello in Vegas as well, Ian. I think that they've got plenty of room to play around. Not as much as I thought, actually, but I think they still have enough to get it done. I still have this weird feeling like if it's not Boston for Zingle, Vegas could end up with both Zingle and Zuccarello, and that would be a nightmare for the Sharks because they don't need Vegas to get any faster.
Nope.
Mm-hmm.
So last one, Mark Stone. I already said mine. Ian, where do you think he goes?
Calgary.
That would have been my fallback there. Hockey Jerk.
Winnipeg.
Okay, yeah, you mentioned Winnipeg. All right, so there it is. Someone do up a chart. Puck guy, do up a chart. Somebody. We'll visit this next week and find out.
It's funny
Actually, one more. Corey Perry.
Anaheim.
Nowhere.
Yeah, Anaheim. Okay. All right.
I think he's an intriguing option, but it's a lot of dollars. Of course, if you're the Anaheim Ducks and you're saying, hey, maybe we can get a second out of this guy, why not retain 50% for 2 years? I mean, if you're going to be crap anyways, right?
True.
Sorry, Sean. I know you're watching.
Shout out to Sean.
Yeah. But yeah, it's oh, and did the Islanders do anything, guys?
Dark horse. They're my dark horse for Mark Stone.
Yeah, they could. I think that's a team that I think is gonna fly under the radar, and they're gonna get something, and no one's gonna see it coming. Like they're the team that I think is gonna do something that's gonna actually be a surprise.
They're the ones who get Ryan Getzlaf.
They're the ones that get Ryan Getzlaf and Jay Howard and everyone else that's on the free agent list.
Yeah. Well, that was that. Yeah, man. Hey, we're what are we? We're 60 hours away.
Yeah, 60 hours about that.
59, 39, I think, away or something like that. So
we're close. That's
Vince is going off the board and saying Frölunda. I like it.
Frölunda. Oh, Eric Carlson to Frölunda.
Yeah. Okay, I have one more, and then I know we need to get the hell out of here. Jeff Skinner.
Wow.
Oh, that's such a good one. I can't see. Buffalo can pay him. I don't.
So
does he?
Really to me, Buffalo's stupid to not bring him back.
Buffalo.
Yeah. They have Pagula has the money.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Fine. Then let's say, how about if not Buffalo?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's fair.
Calgary Flames.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I could totally see that, and then that would just piss off the Hurricanes even more when they're like, you already have half our roster from 2 years ago and our head coach, and now you decide all these guys can make the playoffs? What was wrong with Carolina?
They didn't have Mark Giordano playing out
that's true. That's true.
Everybody's going to remember this when Mark Giordano is the runner-up to the Norris.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
Actually, and then the joking one, since I thought I heard you say Nick Lidstrom was on the market. Nick Lidstrom, Arizona Coyotes, because of course they got to take all the retired guys. So there you go.
Nick Lidstrom, I say Djurgården.
Djurgården. I'm sure they'd be happy to take him. They only have 7 more games left until the end of the season, and I think they're in first place.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, we'll figure it out. I don't know. Are we gonna do anything for the trade deadline? I will have to work after the trade.
Yeah, I hope. Sorry, I've been totally not catching up in the chat. So thanks you guys for sticking with us here. But yeah, hopefully we'll see how Monday goes. But it'd be pretty fun to do another show if we can make it happen. So we'll see what we can do, guys. In the meantime, subscribe and hit that little notification bell so you know whether or not we got a show or not.
All right, so Barracuda won today.
Hey!
Yay! Go Barracuda!
Yay.
Gambrell back down with the little fish again. Now that that Haley is taking his roster spot.
Hey, Gambrell was killing it against Iowa these 2 nights.
Yeah.
I know.
He's been killing it in the AHL all year.
Yeah,
Man.
he's had a good other than a little tiny hiccup.
You know who else has had a good year with the Barracuda? Anybody? Alexander True.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And
Big
somebody
Bird.
asked me, go ahead.
I was just saying, Big Bird.
Yeah. Somebody asked me on Twitter the other night if Alex True has a shot at making the Sharks. I think next season he should be in consideration to making the team. I really do. I'm not saying full time, but I would not be surprised if Alex True made the team out of camp. So we'll see. But he's come along real nice. And credit to Hockey Jerk, because Hockey Jerk's been on the Alex True bandwagon since day one. True fan.
True fan. It's true. And I say Big Bird because he's 6'5" and he played for the Seattle T-Birds. There's your reference.
Oh, there you go. There you go. But Gambrell, he have a goal and 2 assists or something yesterday, and he had 2 goals and the shootout winner, so a technical hat trick today against Iowa. So, yeah, killing it right now. And yeah.
Oh man,
They don't need Vincent Praplin.
Mm-hmm.
I like Vincent Praplin though. It's too bad he had a couple of injuries. Actually, he was hurt like 4 times this season. So.
All right,
but
guys,
bad. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say.
Go ahead.
I was gonna get us down to final thoughts here because I didn't want to.
Yes.
So let's do that. Do we see Perun on the Sharks roster next season? I doubt it.
Doubtful.
No.
Unfortunately, but doubtful.
I don't know. I'm still like honestly like I'm still on the good AHL player. Not sure if an NHL player is there.
Right. Definitely. And to me, Francis Perron just hasn't had the consistency. He had that hot start. I've been saying it all the time. He had that hot start, and he looked good at the All-Star game, but pretty much since the end of November, he's been a so-so player.
Oh, we didn't get to Jimmy Howard watch. Where's Jimmy Howard
You're
going?
right.
Is Jimmy Howard going anywhere?
Vegas.
Jimmy Howard, Detroit, and he resigns.
I say Vegas.
Vegas, eh?
Only
That
because
doesn't make a lot of sense.
Marc-Andre Fleury he's played the most games this season. Malcolm Subban has struggled to shoulder the load that Fleury has not shouldered. And I think they're going to want to upgrade, especially down the stretch. You're not going to want to play Fleury 65, 70 games and then expect him to go for anywhere from 16 to 28 playoff games,
Right.
Assuming Vegas wins the cup this year, which they're most definitely not. But, a kind of an out there, we'll say hashtag shower thoughts theory. I could see Gus Nyquist and Jimmy Howard both to the desert. That's my
I could
bold
see
prediction.
Nyquist. Wait, didn't you say that on last week's show, Nyquist to Vegas? Because I did like that.
I'll be honest, I say a lot of things. Yeah.
All right, final thoughts, Mr. Jerk.
So, final thoughts. This time of year is my favorite time of the year because it's one of those things where we can spend months talking about what may or may not happen, and then oftentimes something that we didn't even expect will happen, and it creates a lot of fodder for us in terms of like what to talk about, and it's just in general it's just always intriguing. I think trades make things a lot more fun, and I'm hoping that this deadline does not suck, frankly. I know there's always been a lack of trades, or I guess not a lot of trades the last few years, but the peeps are saying that this deadline has the potential to have the most trades in a while, and I'm hoping that's true because I love the intrigue and I love having things to talk about. And if you share my my sentiment about talking about things, you can go on Twitter and go in your search bar and type @hockey_jerk, and you click the follow button, and that's me. I'm there probably too much to a fault, talking pretty much everything puck. If you want to talk about hockey, if you want to tell me to shut the hell up, you want to like my podcasts, absolutely, that's the place to do it. And if you want to send me an email, trade theories, conspiracy theories, cooking recipes, whatever, hockeyjerk10@gmail.com.
Wow, threw it out there. Hey, just for the record, I have told him many times to shut the hell up, and it has never happened. So you should give him a follow, but don't bother tweeting him that because it's just not going to happen.
I'm waiting to see who sends me something that says shut the hell up.
Kevin.
So I'm at Kevin Lacey 22 on most social media outlets. I am really excited for the next few days. I'd like to know, is TSN going to be streaming anywhere in the States? Because I know NHL Network's going to be doing the Rogers broadcast, or the Sportsnet broadcast, I should say, as they usually do. But I'm hoping to catch some TSN.
I don't know if they are or not, which is unfortunate.
Yeah,
I think it's
really.
going to be it'll be Sportsnet because of the rights holder.
Okay. Hopefully ESPN will come through like they did last year, even though I can't stand ESPN. But hopefully they'll get something going. Real quick, the Barracuda orange jersey sweepstakes. I remembered this morning to enter, and when it asks you, who is your favorite Barracuda player? Boy, the timing of Vincent Praplin could not have been any worse. But good luck to you in Florida, or really in Springfield, Vinny.
Or in Lugano.
Or in Lugano next year. Which actually I'm hoping to go to Lugano next year, so that'd be kind of cool.
That'd be sweet.
And then I don't think the Sharks are going to really do anything, and I think they will be viewed as losers at this deadline, whether it's fair or not. Well, whether it's fair or not, I think if anyone does come, it's going to be Eric Fair. And the guys on the chopping block, I'd say Antti Suomela, Joachim Blichfeld, who's the other one? I was thinking Max Latunov might be. But other than that, I don't expect anything big from the Sharks.
Yeah, I think for Sharks fans, I mean, like I said, maybe they can, if they do anything, it's going to be because they do it in the 10th hour, right? Like it's going to be an 11th hour thing where they just, they pull the trigger on a deal. Some GM gets desperate to offload something for something, and maybe Doug Wilson gets lucky. I mean, because he doesn't have the assets to really play around with, and we don't really want to see any, we don't want to see any of the Chmelevskis or any of those guys getting moved. So, I don't know. I think for us, it might be kind of a boring deadline as Sharks fans, but I think overall, there's potential at least. And I'm hoping that it's going to be an exciting one, and I hope there's lots of trades, and then we have lots to talk about. Other than that, you can follow me at IanBlogsHockey on Twitter. Other than that, though, I don't really have much else to say. I feel like we've got it all covered. So, have a good night. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe. Check us out on our SoundCloud and all that fun stuff. Have a good night, guys. Thanks for watching.